Hello. Hello, my beautiful watchers. Right off the bat, I want to apologise if I sound a little off in this review. I made the foolish mistake of travelling back to the UK last week and picked up a local strain of the cold virus that had been evolving and mutating there since I moved to California. While I'm recovering, I thought I'd probably be justified in taking a week off from Lost in Adaptation and talking about a trilogy of books that have not, at least to my knowledge, as of yet been the inspiration for any TV shows or films. Decided via Twitter poll, I present to you the Cobra novels by Timothy Zahn. Within my particular nerdy circles, Timothy Zahn is best known for the Thrawn trilogy, 3 books released in the early 90s set in the Star Wars universe about 5 years after the Battle of Endor that was so good they're often credited with kickstarting the extended universe and reawakening mass interest in the franchise. The characters, species, and locations that Zahn created were so insanely popular they were used again and again and again in Star Wars products until the Legends universe was eventually decanoned in 2014. Zahn wrote the first Cobra trilogy, set in a universe entirely of his own creation, about 5 years before he delved into Star Wars. The first of the novels, simply titled Cobra, is surprisingly different to the other two in the trilogy, and it's the one that's probably going to end up hogging most of this review, as it is the most interesting in my opinion, though I will mention the sequels once I'm done. I'm going to start with a reasonably vague synopsis and give you a heads up before I move into spoiler territory, so you can decide if you want to read these books for yourself. Okay, so, the Human Dominion, a democratic spacefaring society encompassing multiple planets and solar systems, has come under attack by a more technologically advanced alien species known as the Troft. The Troft have successfully taken over several human worlds on the outskirts of the Dominion's territory, but the human populations there are attempting to make fully occupying the planets impossible by partaking in resistance movements and guerrilla warfare. To aid in this endeavour, the human government comes up with an unusual plan to bionically and cybernetically augment soldiers and smuggle them onto the occupied planets to help disrupt Troft rule. These soldiers were designated Cobras, and they packed quite a punch. For starters, all their bones were laminated with a high-strength ceramic coating, making them essentially unbreakable. Then servo motors were installed on all the major joints, allowing for vastly increased strength and endurance. They then had small lasers implanted into the bones of the fingers on both hands, and a larger anti-armor laser that could fire out of the heel of one of their legs. This tech is overseen by a nanocomputer that's implanted inside their skulls that automates some of it and allows higher control over others, not unlike a natural human brain. This includes a targeting computer for all of their weapons. The general idea is none of this tech is easily visible from the outside, so the Cobras can blend in with the civilian population of the occupied worlds and wreak havoc at the times and places of their choosing. This book is divided up into 6 sections, each describing a short period in the life of one of the first people to volunteer to become a Cobra, Johnny Maru. These sections are years, sometimes even decades apart, so Johnny is getting on a bit by the end of the book. There's also a brief interlude between each section that's told from the perspective of one of the highest ranking politicians in the Dominion, so you also get a look behind the curtain in regards to how the government is handling certain issues. So, pros of this book, it's got a really cool concept. I really liked the idea of these bionic super soldiers designed to blend in with civilians. I also thought it was fascinating how Zahn explored what additional problems veterans, an already pretty put-upon demographic, would face if they literally could not put down their weapons after they retire because, you know, they're a part of them. Cons involve stuff like the world building being a little weak. The Human Dominion is a pretty generic science fiction society, and while the Troff actually seem like they might be interesting, you get virtually zero actual contact with them in the story. I also didn't personally super gel with the way that the story skips so fast through Johnny's entire life. By only touching on key moments in a person's life, I don't think you get the same sort of chance to get to know a character the way you would in a more traditionally paced story, especially considering how much people change over time and experiences, so Zahn basically had to reintroduce us to Johnny 6 times. Right, this is where things are going to get a little spoilery, so if you've not read these books yet, and I have successfully gotten you interested in doing so, this would be the moment to excuse yourself. Good day to you! Okay. My expectation when I first started reading this book, and the one that you might have right now if you've not read them for yourself, is that this is a war story. However, in a narrative choice that reminded me quite heavily of The Deer Hunter, the war actually turned out to only be a catalyst for the story and takes up a relatively very small amount of the book. And it's not because it's a short war, it's just that, as I said before, there's always at least a few years gap in between each of these sections, and only one of those 6 sections is about Johnny's actual deployment. Zahn, it seems, was much more interested in exploring what life would would be like for these superpowered cyborgs trying to return home after the war, them adjusting to civilian life again, and how the worlds they return to would treat them. It turns out the answer is rather badly, because people can develop a new prejudice really, really fast when they're afraid of what a certain demographic is capable of. It also turns out the government has no fucking clue what to do with the Cobras, and are kind of panicking because what they didn't mention to the public at large is that the Cobras don't have complete control over their actions at all times. In unexpected dangerous situations, the nanocomputers in their heads take over their bodies so they can react faster than normal humans, and it is irreversibly not programmed to show restraint. So, if you threaten a Cobra, even if you're bluffing, he will have killed you before you or he know what's happening. It gets so bad that the government is very close to manufacturing a whole new war just to have somewhere to send the Cobras. However, it is eventually decided that they'll accept voluntary banishment to their own colony worlds. The later sections of the book are about a very small civil war that takes place between the Cobras on this new world, and how they eventually get cut off from the rest of humanity because they're on the other side of Trough space, and while the Trough are prepared to leave the Cobras alone, they're not okay with human ships flying through their territory anymore. That's the setup for the next book, the Cobra worlds dealing with isolation from the Dominion, and an offer from the Trough to help them find some more habitable planets in exchange for dealing with yet another alien race that's causing them trouble, which actually turns out to not be an alien race at all, but another lost human colony that is being manipulated by some low-key telepathic birds. Yeah, the sequel's a bit weird. In a rather sad plot twist, it turns out that becoming a Cobra has some pretty extreme consequences for you as you get older. As your body starts aging around your augmentations, they stop being so seamlessly integrated, and you develop some overwhelming chronic pain in all of your joints. This becomes relevant to the plot later in the story as it affects the decision about whether or not to keep making Cobras, knowing this will happen, and it's used as another reason for why the Cobras aren't allowed to remain in regular society, because they're all about to become enfeebled and bitter and in pain, but they still have lasers in their fingertips. Once they're established, there's an interesting political setup on the new Cobra worlds that basically involves the people who become Cobras getting 2 votes because of the sacrifices they're making. Oh, and don't worry, the superiority complex that comes from the Cobra essentially being Supermen is a huge part of pretty much every section of the book. Zahn wouldn't ignore anything so obvious. There's some interesting fictional swear words in this book that kind of remind me of shows like Battlestar Galactica and Farscape. Those are always very amusing to hear if the author can make them sound natural. Now, this isn't a real complaint because it is not an issue in-universe or out, but something has always bothered me about the Cobra's hidden lasers, and I eventually figured out it's because they're in the pinky finger instead of the index. Just hear me out, okay? I cannot shake the feeling that this is so much cooler than this. You know, I mean, am I being absolutely insane here? You can tell me if I'm being a complete weirdo, okay? I won't mind. I think it might be because this feels like it would be so much easier to aim, but of course that's redundant because the microcomputer in your brain does all the targeting for you. I mean, I don't think you even necessarily need to look where you're trying to shoot. Again, I do want to stress that this is not a legitimate complaint at all. It's just something that's always stuck in my head about these books that I've never fully been able to explain. Marketing for this book must have been a bit of a nightmare because completely coincidentally, a film also called Cobra starring Sylvester Stallone came out the same year. Although now that I think about it, the internet and therefore search engine optimization and trending obviously weren't a thing back then, so possibly wasn't as big an issue as I'm assuming. The second and third books in the trilogy drop the first book's format and just tell a single story set over a much shorter period. Like I said, the second one involves some crazy shit with another planet full of humans and some slightly evil birds. One of the funny things I remember about this particular book is I wasn't entirely convinced at the end that the Cobras were in fact the good guys, because no matter what else happened in the story, at the end of the day, they were the invaders who came to these people's planet and started causing trouble. And on top of that, the solution to the problem they come up with at the end was kind of fucked up. I mean, I won't go into details because of spoilers, but yeah, when you stop and think about it, it's super amoral on many levels. The third book in the series is, well, let me explain. Set another significant time jump after the middle book, Johnny Maru is super dead at this point, and the story now focuses on a descendant of his called Jin, who is the first woman to become a Cobra. Because apparently there haven't been any until now. Yeah, women aren't allowed in the military on the Cobra worlds, and there is no reason for this besides in-universe misogyny. I mean, the book makes that super clear. That really confused the hell out of me. I mean, you'd think if anything were equal opportunity, it would be being a cyborg. I mean, the artificial strength alone negates any advantage man would have over women in that department. The fact that their new enemy would be even less likely to suspect a woman of being a hidden killing machine is brought up as a reason to finally try it, and I'm like, okay, I guess all the planets are sexist. And this inequality is just coming up now in like, what, the 4th generation of Cobras? No one brought up the possibility of female recruits during the Troft invasion. I mean, I totally get that there was a huge problem with chauvinism in the 80s when this was written, and still is today, but women are allowed to serve in the military, and is this book really saying that humanity is going to backslide on the equal rights front with the invention of interstellar travel? What's more, at the end of the book, the misogynists win. They spin it so that it looks like Jin did a crappy job with her mission and make it official that women can never be Cobras. Now, to be fair to Zahn, this injustice is very much presented as a bad thing, but the fact that it was the status quo in this world that he created is kind of baffling. I mean, this isn't some dystopian future. Everything else in his universe seems pretty enlightened, except for the attitude towards women, which appears to have been lifted out of the 1940s. In 2009, Zahn started writing Cobra books again, and has not stopped since, it seems. Unfortunately, due to my reading time now officially being my work time, I've not had a chance to explore anything past the original trilogy, but if there are any fans out there, please do let me know if they're any good. So yeah, I guess that about wraps it up on this one. The Cobra series isn't like one of my all-time favourites, but I do like it, and the Cobras themselves would probably make it onto my list of coolest science fiction weapons that have never made it onto the big screen if I ever get around to actually making that video. Now, I'm not being sponsored by Zahn's publishers, so I'm not going to bother putting in links as to where you can buy these books, but they are available from all the usual online sellers if you feel inclined to try them for yourself. Thank you for joining me, my beautiful watchers. If you like this silly YouTube channel, don't forget to top up its shield against the horrors of the YouTube algorithm by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I will see you in the next episode. Hello again, my beautiful watchers. I just wanted to take this opportunity to give you a quick reminder that there's a wonderful website called Patreon that's been allowing online producers to actually make a living doing what they do, since apparently YouTube's decided that they shouldn't anymore. Basically, they offer the chance to pledge a certain amount of money per month or per video in exchange for various rewards offered by the creator. There's a variety of stuff you can earn by becoming one of my patrons, including early access to all videos and taking part in that survey you see at the start of every Lost in Adaptation episode. That's actually a very important part of the process, as I use it to gauge how much I'm going to need to explain about the book and the film before I start comparing them. If you decide to become a higher level contributor, your name will be added to the credits that you're seeing right now, and you'll be given the option to join my private chat room so you can regularly talk with me and other patrons. If you're keen enough to join the topmost tier of patronage, you'll earn the most coveted of all the rewards, the chance to pick a future adaptation to be reviewed by yours truly. However, if right now you are thinking, my goodness the Dom, I can't do that, for I have no money left after building a personal fortress to prepare for the coming zombie apocalypse. Do you have any idea how expensive a lifetime supply of food, water, and ammunition is? Fear not, it would still be a huge help to me if you were to give that like button the old clickaroo, share this episode on social media with perhaps a little recommendation to your friends to check it out, and subscribe if you've not already. It really helps my channel grow and reach new beautiful watchers. I hope you have a most pleasant day, and I will see you in the next episode.